With football season just 19 days away, we're going to be focusing in today's episode on the biggest storylines in this season of the NFL. Now, before we get into this episode, I want to shout out our sponsor, Prophet Exchange. Prophet Exchange is a betting platform that is peer-to-peer, so you can select your own lines, offer them up, and have them taken by others. And that means that there's no juice, and you maximize your value. Prophet Exchange is the best way of betting you can do. Available in Jersey. Anyways, the best storylines that we have going this year, there are several actually. One of them is going to be Trevor Lawrence. Now, he made a big jump between the first and second half of his second season. One of the most hyped up prospects in decades in the NFL, and had, even for him, I'll say a disappointing initial season. His rookie season was fine. Not that many rookie seasons in the NFL for QBs are spectacular, but his was definitely not impressive. His sophomore season started out slow, but ended really strong. He was one of the best passers in the league for the final half of the season, and he had a massive 27-point comeback in the playoffs. That does huge things for the team, their confidence in him. His confidence is a playoff-winning quarterback, and based on the amount of growth that occurred that half of the season, I think there's opportunity for him to improve significantly from year 2 to 3. He's got some experience under his belt, but he's consistently getting more and more used to his coaching, the speed of the NFL, the defenses he's going to face, the pace of the league. And he's also got Calvin Ridley, who was out last season for gambling, which I'm not going to get into that on this episode, but if you listen to the last episode, you understand how I feel about players being punished for gambling. I don't think Ridley did anything wrong. I'd say free Ridley, but he's already free. He's back. So the Jaguars have an opportunity to show that they are not only a playoff team, but legitimate contenders. So that's going to be a very big year for them. I think his odds right now are 18-1 for him to be the MVP and 12-1 for him to lead the league in passing yards as it stands currently. Again, you can probably get better than that on Prophet, but that's a huge opportunity. And I think that there's a very decent chance. I think there's value in that play. He could be that guy. I think there's a year that he surpasses Justin Herbert in the overall rankings, and he's got a shot at passing some other guys as well. If the current top 5 quarterbacks, not in order, are going to be Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and maybe people might be split between Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts, I think Trevor Lawrence surpasses those two and maybe even one more. He's going to be really good, and this is a huge season for him to prove that fact. If he stagnates from year 2 to 3, then we kind of have an idea of what his ceiling looks like, and he's probably a little bit closer to a Justin Herbert. If he goes past this, the sky is the limit. He really could deliver on the outrageous hype that he's had. Now, another story I want to talk about besides him is the Lions. Lions are a team that America loves. They're the Hard Knocks team. Last year, people got excited. They love Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is a plus 900 favorite. A plus 900 favorite isn't something you hear often, but plus 900 favorite to win Coach of the Year this season. This will be his second year as head coach of the Lions, I believe. They were 9-8 last year, beating the Packers in the season finale, which would have sent them to the playoffs if things had gone their way earlier in the day, but unfortunately they did not. But this is a team that played with terrible defense the whole season, and the offense carried them. They started out, I believe, 1-6, maybe 1-5, and then finished with a 9-8 record. That's a huge comeback from a really disappointing start to the season. Jared Goff probably looked like a top 10 QB, maybe top 12 on the absolute worst side. But if you think about how good he was with the Rams, that shouldn't surprise people. You know, he had one bad season. They decide he wasn't good anymore. But Jared Goff is a legitimate QB and led that offense to a ton of success. On the defensive side, they got Aiden Hutchinson, a really strong rookie last year that is continuing to develop and could be an elite pass rusher in his second year. And you've got, some improvement in the defense, some opportunities for them to figure things out, make bigger strides in this second season, and go 10-7, 11-6, potentially win that division that's very much up for grabs after the Packers lost Rodgers. And that kind of leads me to the third story I want to talk about today. What's going to be the deal with the Packers? Is Jordan Love any good? There's nobody talking about him being good this season. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that he was pretty highly touted as a rookie, pretty highly touted as a draft pick, and because a couple boring preseason performances, a couple times he's filled in for Rodgers and hasn't excited people, they decide he's no good, they wrote him off. What did Aaron Rodgers do under Favre before becoming one of the greatest QBs to ever play the game? I think Jordan Love, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Aaron Rodgers, but I think he has the opportunity to step in and lead a decent offense to a lot of success. I think taking the over on the Packers wins is a bit of a sleeper here. I think they're a very underrated team that because they struggled last year under Rodgers, people think are going to be absolutely trash with Jordan Love. But I think Jordan Love is going to surprise some people. I think he's going to lead them to a decent season, and they're going to contend with the Lions. However, also in this division is the Bears. The Bears and Justin Fields. What kind of growth are we going to see from Justin Fields in year 2 to year 3? Now, he's a guy that's been hyped up a lot. I think he's the 5th in odds to be MVP, and he's the most bet on MVP long shot. They bet on Justin Fields more than anyone else, more than the likely people like Patrick Mahomes, more than Josh Allen, who's been knocking on it, Jalen Hurts, who's been knocking, Trevor Lawrence. They bet on Justin Fields. And I got to say, I think Chicago's out of their mind. I think Chicago is in for a really disappointing season. What are they going to do this season? Is Justin Fields, because he's picked up a target or two, suddenly becoming elite? He's a great runner. He's a great fantasy quarterback. He's shown some flashes. He's a terrific athlete. He's still small. He's still a bad pocket passer. He's still far from being able to pass at the level needed to succeed in the NFL. He really is. And just because people are excited, Bears fans have been needing someone for a long time. People want to get hyped. They talk about Jalen Hurts comparisons, how when he picked up a couple more targets, he became elite. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think the Bears' offense looks anything like the Eagles' offense last year or this year. And I don't think Justin Fields is close to the talent of Jalen Hurts. I think he has a ton to learn as a passer. I think he has a ton of progress to make. And I don't think that he was showing massive strides throughout the season. What I saw throughout last year was Justin Fields dejected, frustrated with the lack of teammates, and frustrated with his own performance. I don't want to say giving up, and I don't want to give too much to body language, but this didn't look like a guy that's ready to take over the reins and lead this team to victory. I understand the division is open, and it feels like this could be an opportunity for them, but I think that's a 7-win team, maybe even a 6-win team. I don't think that they're going to be the team people want them to be, and I don't think Justin Fields is going to be the QB people want him to be. I think Chicago's in for a really disappointing season, and this sounds extreme, but if I were them, after the first 5 games, if things don't go the way they were hoping they would go, I think they could be tanking. Now, tanking is another storyline I want to talk about. The transitions have been absolutely seamless and impeccable throughout this entire episode, but tanking is going to be a thing this season because Caleb Williams is a prospect that's been compared to Patrick Mahomes. He looks like Patrick Mahomes in his play style. He's an elite runner. He's a great passer. He won the Heisman as a sophomore. He's going to be a really good NFL quarterback someday, and he's the type of candidate people would tank for. People weren't tanking last year. They didn't care about the first overall pick nearly as much. C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, people weren't even sure on who the first overall pick would be. The first overall pick this coming year will be Caleb Williams, and tanking for that pick will be a thing. I don't think the Bears are a favorite to come in last place. That probably belongs to the Cardinals. Even the Texans, if they want to blow through another rookie QB and try to get a third. But if I'm the Bears, I don't believe in Justin Fields. I don't think he's the answer. I think Caleb Williams has a shot, and I think that they're a team that actually could tank for success. I'm not sure what the salary cap situation is for them, where they stand with everything, but it just feels like a year that's worth tanking, and I think Justin Fields very quickly is going to let people down massively. Now, another quarterback that has an opportunity to make or break a season the first few games that people are really going to be looking into with either high hopes or heavy skepticism is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is a multiple Super Bowl champion, an elite QB, several Pro Bowls under his belt that delivered an absolutely atrocious season last year. Now, a lot of criticism has been placed on Hackett as a coach. Some people, including the new coach of the Broncos, Sean Payton, are saying that Hackett is one of the worst coaches ever. He absolutely destroyed that team. He was terrible. And Russell Wilson had one of the most disappointing seasons a QB has ever had. Absolutely horrible from beginning to end. Showed barely any flashes of anything close to the talent he used to have. Barely threw the long ball that he was so good at. Wasn't able to scramble much at all. And now he has an opportunity to show that last season was a fluke, to work with Sean Payton, a Hall of Fame coach, and figure things out and be able to put together a really strong team because they have one of the best defenses in the league. That defense kept them in games they didn't belong to be in because of how disappointing their offense was. They were going, that under was the freest bet you could have week in and week out. That under was free. The Russell Wilson charity under. It was one of my favorite plays last year. And we're going to find out. Is it going to be like last year? Now, I can't imagine that there's any way that he would be able to disappoint as much as he did last year. I think if he's even 8/10 of who he was 2 years ago with that defense, that's a borderline playoff team. The only reason I say borderline is because they're playing in such an elite division where it's going to be hard to win games because the Chiefs, coming off a Super Bowl victory, are such a gauntlet. The Chargers with Justin Herbert are a really elite team. And they're also going to have to play the Raiders twice, who knows? They might figure some things out. They might be decent. But I think that the Broncos, within 4 games, we're going to find out, is this a legit team? Is this a strong team, a playoff contender? Or is Russell Wilson's career over with? And we're going to find that out very quickly, because if he comes out and sucks with Sean Payton, it's not Hackett's fault anymore. So if I'm Hackett, I'm rooting on his downfall. But we'll find out very quickly. This is an interesting one because there are some long shot bets with Russell Wilson. Because, he could soar over the over-under on win-loss. He could also go way under. So you could take an alt line, move it down a couple wins, expect him to under-deliver just like he did last year, and be a 5-6 win team. So there's some long shot opportunities with anyone that unpredictable, and I think that's worth doing some sprinkling on. Now, 2 more storylines we have to get to in this episode. The next is the Jets. The Jets just brought on Aaron Rodgers. They surprised teams with how good their defense was last year. They proved they're a top 3, top 5 defense in the NFL. Really, really elite play and some really strong play from rookies. So there's a lot of opportunity when you see really strong play from rookies and you know that there's opportunity for big growth from year 1 to year 2. There's really high possibilities with a team like that. And now you have Aaron Rodgers, who had a disappointing last year, and he is 38 years old, I believe. So there is the possibility that he's just fallen off, that he's not the MVP he was 2 years ago. His age just finally caught up to him. But I've been watching Hard Knocks. I've been watching clips. He looks strong. I'm a Bills guy. I don't want them to be good this year. That 9-11 game in New York City, I'll tell you this. It's crazy. If you're going to ride with New York on 9/11, I feel like you're a little bit crazy. But nonetheless, that's going to be a really exciting opener, an incredible Monday night game. I'll be there, and you should too. But we're going to find out a lot about the Jets and Aaron Rodgers and what their capabilities are. New York's super excited. They're saying the sky's the limit. I understand it. You have a Hall of Fame QB walking in with one of the best defenses and some weapons on offense. This is a team that has all the pieces. They could be absolutely elite. The question is really, can Rodgers, with a questionable offensive line, come in and play it close to his capabilities, close to his MVP status? If so, even in an elite division with the Bills and with the Dolphins and even the Patriots, who aren't good but are tough to beat twice because of Belichick, they could be a really, really strong team and a Super Bowl contender. Or is Rodgers kind of on the downhill now and he's going to be, 7/10 of what he was as an MVP? He's going to be close to last year, and that team probably wins 9 or 10. The other question mark is, how good is that offense? How good is that defense? They were really, really strong last year. But was that a fluke? Did they overperform? I think they overperformed to some extent. I think they'll be a strong defense, but maybe drop from like a top 3-4 to a 6 or a 7. But they're going to be really strong. They're going to be reliable. They're going to keep teams in games. And when you go from Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers, I can't believe how much more exciting that is. That is a huge opportunity, and this could be a huge year for the Jets. Now, the last storyline we need to get to, the last big question mark we want to talk about, it's the Saints with Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a guy, he got a big contract. He never really had the success with the Raiders organization that people were hoping, that he was hoping for. He seems to blame them to some extent, if we're being honest. And we'll see. There's a lot of question marks there. But he is a quarterback that has shown a lot of talent. He has the ability to be really good. He hasn't fully proven it consistently over the course of the season, and some time has gone by and he might not be there anymore. But he has potential to be very good, and the Saints team had all the other pieces. They play in a terrible division that's totally up for grabs, and they could easily win because I think the Bucs will be really bad, and I think the Panthers will be really bad. So they could definitely win that division, and I would bet them to win the division. But if Derek Carr plays near his peak, that team could be a problem. I'm not saying contenders, but I'm saying that's a team that could win a playoff game or two. So we have a lot of QB movement, a lot of young QBs, and we're curious on what kind of growth they're going to show. Older QBs that we're not sure if their season is over with or their careers are over with yet or not. And there's a huge amount of question marks that we're going to find out in the first few games of the season. So my advice, Start nuking futures, nuking long shots. There's a lot of opportunity for some crazy things to happen because there are so many question marks. And when there's more uncertainty, there's more value. So the bigger the uncertainty, the more value there is in long shots. I'm going to be all over them. Stay tuned. Let's go.